Nityanandam, waiting for Jara Sharika to go live. Shakri is very smart, she quickly do it. Otherwise she'll forget the recording. Later she too busy there, she'll forget the recording. Yes, are you ready now? Okay. So Muslim, yes. Awesome, Vela. Nityanandam, welcome back to Ashtavakra Gita. Today's the fourth session. Welcome to Kailasa, Singapore. Today's 26th of July, 2023. My name is Monica Nityananda. And welcome to this very, very powerful session where Swamiji expounds on the science of living enlightenment. So let's get into the space to receive this profound, pure truth. So sit with the back straight, align head, neck, and spine in one straight line. Bring awareness to the physical body, where the boundary of the skin ends, and begin to breathe in very slowly and deeply, inhaling fully. Enter into a gap, a pause, a neutral zone. Then you exhale very slowly and deeply. And you enter into the second gap. So go on breathing in and out with the awareness of the two gaps. Allow the breath awareness to integrate this body and mind to the space of now. Enter into the restful awareness in pure listening, where there's no judgment, no residue from the past, just pure awareness. Ready to receive what Swamiji and Ashtavakra has to impart to all of us in the fourth session. In that restful awareness, let's invoke the Guru. So join the palms together in Amajali Mudra with the eyes closed. Put it on your Anahata Chakra, heart center. Let's begin with the Sadguru Vandanam, followed by 3 times the Mahavakya. Take a deep breath. Nityanandam Paramasukharam Kevalam Jnanamutim Dvandvatitam Gadana Shatrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Savadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavaditam Trigunarehitam Satguruntam Namami. Om Nityananda Paramashivoham. Om Nityananda Paramashivoham. Om Nityananda Paramashivoham. So, once again, a warm welcome to all of you who are joining me either here in the Adinam itself or in the Zoom session, as well as we are live on Facebook, YouTube, as well, right? So this 3 platform we are now live. So let's enter into today's session. Next slide. So I want to do a quick recap of the 4 verses that we have learned in the last 3 sessions. Okay. So the first truth that Ashtavakra gave was, he said, if you aspire for liberation, my child, shun the objects of the senses as poison and seek forgiveness, sincerity, kindness, contentment, and truth ex nectar, amrita. So then in the second verse, he said, you are neither earth, nor water, nor fire, nor air, nor ether. In order to attain liberation, moksha, realize yourself as the knower of all these and consciousness itself. So there was a second verse again. Then on the third verse, he said, if you detach from the body and rest in intelligence, you will at once be happy, peaceful, and free from bondage. So in the third verse, we learn how to unclutch from the body, right? And establish in intelligence. So these are the verses where Ashtavakra began to speak. The first, King Janaka asked to know the truth, and then Ashtavakra began to speak. And then the 4th verse last week we expounded was on social conditioning, the social, upbringing, the social status that we come to associate ourselves. So he said, you do not belong to the Brahmana or any caste, any other caste, or to any ashrama. You are not visible to the eyes. Unattached, formless, and witness of all are you. Be blissful. So basically, these were the 4 verses that we have covered so far. And so today we're going to enter into the 5th verse. So come, let's enter into the 5th verse. So the 5th verse is very, very interesting. Ashtavakra says, virtue or vice, virtue and vice, pleasure and pain are of the mind, not of you. Oh, all-pervading one, you are neither the doer nor enjoyer. Verily, you are ever free. Okay, so let's decode this verse in a greater depth. Okay, so in this verse or sutra, Ashtavakra directly addresses Janaka as the all-pervading one. Means what? He's seeing him as consciousness. Okay. Until this point, he was saying, you are this, you are that, you are pure consciousness. Now he straight away addresses Janaka as all-pervading one, okay? Which is the essence of who we are. We're the all-pervading one. So actually, Ashtavakra is answering the doubts that will come after listening to the truth of being unattached, okay, unclutched. We are completely unclutched. That is the truth. Every moment by our very nature, we are renounced. We renounce our thoughts. Okay? Unless we renounce one thought, we cannot have the next thought. One thought has to be renounced for the next thought to happen, because our mind can only handle one thought at a time. Okay? So by our very nature, we are constantly renouncing our thoughts, continuously. One thought comes, after that, we renounce, then next thought comes. Just like now, I'm sitting. Then if I decided I'm going to have a cup of coffee, the moment that thought of having a cup of coffee enters, it means, the previous thought would have already been renounced. This is how the mind functions, right? One thought replaces itself. Continuously, you keep replacing, renouncing. Next slide. So, Swamiji says, only fools try to create the same thoughts over and over again. So if you are one of those fools who keep stewing on the same thought again and again, you know why. It means you are clutched to that thought, okay? Whether you try to visualize or verbalize the same things constantly, this can be harmful to you. Please be very clear that Eastern consciousness is suffering because you're constantly trying to visualize or verbalize something. Okay? So this is where the secret lies. You need to understand why the mind can have control over you, because you constantly try to visualize and verbalize. Okay? See, almost all the people who take up spiritual life try one exercise or another, whether it's meditation, doing mantra, japa, doing some kind of spiritual practice, isn't it? So they're constantly trying to visualize something, like visualize some kind of space, whatever, or verbalize something, like a mantra, okay, or some kind of technique, meditation technique. So we're trying to do this, both visualizing and verbalizing can work against you. So this is a deeper truth, okay? So listen carefully first. Then you may ask, why were we doing this? Okay, so let's get into it first. See, by our very nature, we are unattached, right? We are unclutched. We are just pure awareness. So we renounce thoughts every moment. So the more we try to stay with one thought, the more we suffer. Understand? So that's why we need to understand how the mind works. Then you will be able to fall into the consciousness. Next slide. So if we try we try to keep our mind focused on a single thought. Let's say you want to meditate on, let's say, a deity, okay? Let's say, or something, or some kind of very powerful, words that you're trying to meditate on, okay? We will only be touching ourselves. Please be very clear, okay? Like you're trying to not think about some sickness. But if you try very hard, then you just keep thinking of that the same thing again, right? Like someone who's addicted to cigarettes, they try not to think about cigarettes. Then suddenly the mind keeps thinking, the more they try not to think, the more the cigarette will appear. There's some people who ask Swamiji, how can I stop those lustful thoughts, especially the male, right? They have all these lustful thoughts, thinking of women and things like that. So how can I drop all these lustful thoughts? But the more they try to drop, the more they keep thinking about it. So they get very frustrated, okay? So you said, I've seen people torturing themselves with some mantra or some visualization. But whether it is mantra or visualization, both create only one more pressure and stress in us, okay? Some of you may be able to relate. When you try not to have the ego or angry, but the more you have that, okay? Anyone can relate with that? Raise your hand. The more you try to, no, I shouldn't do this. Then the more the thing come in vengeance, okay? Okay, so this is the trick you need to know, okay? Then you get very stressful. You say, how come I'm trying to drop my ego? I'm trying to drop my this. How come the more I try to drop, the more it comes in like a big giant, okay? So this effort to create a consistent shaft, it means like a shaft like a chain, will not be successful because it is not possible to create a consistent shaft, okay? So by our very nature, we're constantly renouncing thoughts. Unless we renounce one thought, we cannot go to the next thought. Okay? So this is the nature of the mind. So you need to understand how the mind functions in order to be able to work with the mind. That means go beyond it. So the moment we renounce one thought, we go to the next thought. Like some people say, oh, I try not to think I'm depressed. But the thing is, they will try not to think of depression, the more depression come and, depressive thought keep coming or negative thought keep coming, okay? So we go to the next thought. So by our nature, we are renouncing thoughts every moment, right? You already have enough pain and problem, right? Because by now with your mind, you know how painful and how how much problem or how much mess you have in your life. Now you create one more pain of repeating some mantra or some visualization. So it's like on top, whatever that you're struggling, you add one more on top of it. Okay? So by your very nature, you cannot be with the same thought continuously. Let's be very, very savvy about it. Be clever about it. You can't be in one thought continuously. Okay? So all you need to understand is that by your very nature, you are unattached, you are unclutched. Just as Ashtavakra says in the fourth verse, the fourth sutra, he says, by your very nature, you are unattached. Okay? So see, when the enlightened master gives the direct truth, if you catch the truth, you don't need to practice, you just start living it. But when you're not able to catch the truth or have a click inside you, okay, that means he has to make you understand more by giving you some more techniques, give you more words had to be given. It's just like in Bhagavad Gita, Swamiji said that out of the entire book, only 2 verses, okay? So, but because Arjuna was not ready to receive the truth, so Krishna had to give more and more words in order to settle him down. So same thing for Ashtavakra Gita. He already given the truth in the upfront, okay? But only for those mind who cannot grasp the truth, he gives more verses for you to understand, okay? So let's go to the next slide. If you understand you are unattached, then you will understand that you're liberated, okay? See, there is no linear connection between one thought and another thought. Every thought is an independent, irresponsible, illogical thought, right? But the problem with the mind, they try to connect one thought with another thought. Let's say last week you have a depressive thought, and this week you again depression thought came again. So you connect that, oh, I have depression because last week I was depressed, this week I was depressed, so I must be suffering from depression. So like this only we linking different thoughts and form a shaft called a pain shaft of depression and suffer, okay? So the only relationship between thought is that they come from the same source, okay? All thoughts come from the same source. Just like what you see in this picture, the bubbles in a fish tank comes from the bottom, right? There is like a bubble making machine, right? So there is the same source where all the bubbles arises, right? So your thought also arises in the same manner. When one bubble comes and reaches to the surface of the water, the next bubble starts again. And then the third bubble starts. So it just keeps going on continuously, right? So you start connecting all these bubbles on the surface of the water. It looks like a chain of bubbles. It looks like a solid thing, right? Look like a solid bubble, like a chain. Same way, when you connect all the thoughts together, you form a chain, and bind yourself. It's like a chain you tie yourself and create, a suffering for you and suffocate yourself. Okay, so because of your memory of pain or pleasure, you start connecting all the bubbles and start thinking that your mind is linear. But no, your mind is never linear. Understand? In order to move from one bubble to the next bubble, you cannot move horizontally. You can only go vertically. Okay, so every bubble or every thought is coming from the Atman, the soul, your being. Okay, understand that. Every thought. That's why, those of you who have done Yoga Nidra before with me, and for those of you who are aware, when you're in the altered state of consciousness, you can actually witness your thoughts. You can actually see what the mind is constantly making noise, very noisy. See, I went into a state before and after yoga, like you go into Shavasana and deep rest. Then you fall into these different states of consciousness. Then suddenly you can hear the mind is talking. There's so much noise, talking. But you're witnessing. You feel like there's like somebody is talking. That is the mind talking. Okay? So like that only, the bubble is like a thought, just keep coming from that source. But you associate you with that thought and create suffering within yourself. That is the start of the mind. Okay, so next slide. So the original scene, Swamiji said, the original scene is not you eating the apple, okay? The original scene is you connecting your thoughts and form a shaft of pain or joy shaft, okay? When you connect your thoughts in a selective linear manner, you create an idea that your whole life is pain or your whole life is joy or pleasure. You start creating like labels, or I have this pain, I have that pain, I have this suffering, I have that suffering, my life is this, my life is that. So that's how, when you start labeling yourself with all this selective, shaft that you can created, if you feel that your life is pain, you will try to break the shaft, right? Because you don't want to have the pain, you try to break it. And if you feel that your life is pleasure, enjoyable, right? You try to extend the shaft. You want to stay there. You want to prolong that shaft, right? The pleasure. But either way, you need to understand you will fail. You can't prolong the joy, nor can you break the pain. You will be in complete utter failure by trying to do either one of them in this effort, because there is actually no shaft. The so-called imaginary shaft is created by your mind. Okay, so there's no solid existential reality. It is just the fabrication of the mind. So connecting and seeing your thoughts in a linear way is the original scene that you commit and starts the whole, moving away from that restful awareness, the unattached, the unclutched state. So creating the shaft in your mind is the original sin. In doing so, you are creating something inside you that does not exist, which is the mind. Here starts the whole life of delusion, maya, and suffering. So therefore, mind is a pure myth. It's a pure myth that only when you are in unconscious state, you will live with the mind, because you created it and you're not sure how to deal with it. So you live with it, right? And suffer from it. But if you are able to understand this truth and fall back to your original state of consciousness, you'll be instantly liberated from your mind. Let's see how we can do that today. Next slide. So understand, your very nature is bliss, ananda, and bliss is choiceless. Swamiji said that. Choicelessness is bliss. See, if you choose it, bliss will not happen. Okay? Because you have made a choice, therefore have eliminated it as a possibility. When you make a choice, you're eliminating certain possibilities. So when you are choiceless, you're just established as a weakness, choiceless. When you're completely relaxed, bliss simply happens in you. Okay? So when you are concerned about bliss, you're very concerned to ensure that you will not experience it. Like you try to, how the water, right? When you try to get hold of the water, or you try to, hold tight on the water will just run away through the hand, the gaps of the hand, right? So just like bliss, the more you try to be attached to it, the more you will miss it. So the bliss has to become like a choiceless happening. So do not try to retain the feeling. If it happens, enjoy it and then let it go. Okay? Don't try to say, oh, I feel so ecstatic that time, I'm trying to get back that feeling. I'm trying to experience it again and again. When you have that, you're clutched to death. Bliss again. Okay? So just relax and allow it to happen choicelessly. He said, if you felt the bliss because you understood that nothing can be retained. You're just flowing with existence. There's no need to try to hold on to things. So you felt the deep joy because you could become choiceless. You were choiceless. You just, enjoy and be there in the presence. You felt the deep joy because you felt completely disconnected. You're not connected by the mind to the mind. That's why you feel joyful. So you felt such a big relief because by your very nature you are unclutched. The bliss was not because of the discourse itself. The discourse was a tool that make you feel that way. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So, somebody says, whether it's pain sharp or joy sharp, both leads you to hell, means suffering. Okay, whether you create a pain sharp or a joy sharp, you end up in hell. Torture. Creating shells will result in hell. If you create pain shell, then you will be creating pain, more and more pain. Whereas if you create joy shell, then you'll be creating addiction. Whether you're creating addiction or you're creating pain, that's the start of the mind. Okay, the mind will only create pain or addiction. Okay? So all addiction leads to hell. As you know, eventually addiction leads to self-destruction. Okay? So whether you create a pain shell or a joy shell, you're creating hell for yourself. Let's be very clear. And you should know that a lot of youth nowadays are addicted to something in one way or another, because they're trying to seek pleasure, whether it's sense pleasure or some kind of pleasure. Okay? That yearning, desire for pleasure leads them to some form of addiction. Okay? So if they can understand that they are unclutched, they can just walk out of the addiction. You will not have to suffer anymore. So the moment you start trying to extend the shell, which is the joy shell, you will start suffering because you will not be able to extend it. You will not be able to prolong it. The moment you try to break the shell because of pain, you will suffer because you will not be able to break the pain shell. So either way, you will be in complete failure. It's going to be a complete failure whether to break it or extend it. Understand? So if you catch this truth, then you just stop creating more shell. You just relax, unclutch, and fall in tune with your original state. Okay? Next slide. So, the truth is there is no shell. If you understand this one truth, there's no shell at all within you. You created it out of your imagination. So do not try to renounce depression, because by your nature, it will be flowing. You will be going away. By your nature, just as joy disappears from the mind, depression will also disappear from the mind. You know how many people are depressed, right? After the depression, they just go and commit suicide, right? But if they understand this truth, this fundamental truth, they can just walk out depression and even suicidal tendency, just understanding the very nature, it's just a shell created by you through the mind. If you understand how to renounce the mind, then you're out of this depression. So the moment you try to eliminate depression, you will extend it and give it more and more life. Understand? Somji is giving a powerful solution to heal humanity out of depression. If they understand this one truth, if they catch this one truth, whether it's virtue, vice, pleasure, or pain, they're all of your mind, but not you. So find back the you rather than associate yourself of the mind. When you associate yourself of the mind, you naturally in hell because you'll be suffering in pain or addiction. Okay? Now, do you understand what I'm saying? Give me a thumbs up. You are catching me. You're following me now? Yes? How many of you can relate with what I'm talking so far? You understand what we're saying? And you can see so many people are suffering because of this, creating shock. They're not able to get out of this vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle. They keep looping. It's just like this, the cycle of samsara, birth, death. They keep looping, right? It means they die and then they take another birth, then they die, they take another birth. They don't know how to liberate themselves and break this vicious cycle of taking another body again, taking another body again, taking another body again. If you understand, you are unclutched by your very nature. The moment you understand, you just fall in tune with that original state and you just do not get back to the looping again. You jump out of the looping. Okay, next slide. So the gap between thoughts is the peace, the bliss. So let's understand this very important analogy given by Swamiji, why he called unclutch. Okay, he said when we change gear, those of you who drives car, you know that, there's a gearbox, right? So you change gear. When you're driving, whether you change from neutral gear to the first gear, to the second gear, third gear, etc., or fifth gear, whatever gear, you change. Every time we change the gear, we have to go to the neutral gear, okay? The neutral state. Only then we can go to the next gear. This is the way, the clutch happened in the car, right? The gear happened. So in the same way, we experience a neutral space in between two thoughts. See, the gap between two thoughts is the neutral space, okay? In that gap, what we call the neutral space, is the silence, is what I call peace and bliss. The more and more you elongate that gap, the more and more you experience bliss. See, like Swamiji gave a very perfect example. He said the gap is called Shana, okay? Of Buddha could be 5,000 years between one thought to another. But for a normal human being, it could be microsecond. Because your mind is constantly in the thinking mode, right? So the gap, so the more and more when you do the unclutching, the more and more the gap elongates, widens. So the more and more you experience the peace and the blissfulness of that silence. So the peace, that silence that happens between two thoughts is what we're trying to establish ourselves in. Because Swamiji say that in Shiva Sutra, God resides in the gaps. So when you are falling in tune in the gap, you enter into the state of silence or samadhi, and you are experiencing Shiva consciousness. Okay? So the gap between two thoughts, that neutral space is peace. So he said that unless you experience peace, you will not experience bliss. Peace comes first, then bliss explode choicelessly. So first attain peace by establishing yourself in the gaps between two thoughts. Elongate that. The more and more you unclutch the thoughts, the more and more you fall into the gap, and the longer the gaps become. So longer gaps means the more silence, more healing happen, more peace happen, and more bliss experienced. Okay, next slide.
You speak slowly.
Yes, he speaks slowly so that you fall into his gap. Understand?
You sleep most of the time.
Whether you are asleep or you are in the gap,
Or in the peace.
yes, he's putting you in that healing zone.
Yes.
Understand? Now you caught it. Yes. So now let's get into unclutch. When you unclutch, you work smart, not hard. Okay? Those who are clutched, they work very hard, but utter failure. or very stressed. Okay, so now this is what Swamiji said. How to be super productive, huh? And so relaxed and chill and cool. Okay, so this is the technique he said. When you understand that you are unconnected, independent, illogical, and unclutched by your very nature, you will start experiencing the neutral space in you more and more. Okay? With the knowledge of this neutral space in you, you will start living from moment to moment with spontaneity. Those people who are clutched, who are too logical, they never experienced spontaneity. They don't know how to be spontaneous. Hence, they can't be creative. Creativity comes from the gap. When you're in the silence, this is where, because only God creates. Okay, human being does not create. Only when you fall into that silence of the gap, creation happens. You become, ideas get revealed to you. Solution get shown to you. Understand? So the more and more you fall into the silence of that gap, you not only have higher intelligence, you become super creative, you can download anything, you can respond to any problem in the outer world without stress, and you'll be able to handle it peacefully and with so much powerfulness. Understand? This is the way how all enlightened beings operate. That's why they are constantly in samadhi, because they fall into that silence. In that silence, many things happen at the cosmic level. Okay, so their first fear is, see, if you're able to catch that, but a lot of people sometimes they feel that, if I unclutch and would I become lazy? How can I pay my bill? But unclutch, and how I may lose my job, I may lose my wealth, I may lose all my money if I unclutch. How can I take care of my things or myself if I unclutch all the time? See, this is the fear coming from human beings. So he said that be very clear. If you just unclutch, you will not work hard. You will just work smart until your tamas get exhausted. Those laziness energy, right? Lethargic energy get exhausted. You will lie there, right? Okay, let's say you're tired. You just lie down there. But you can't lie there forever. At some point in time, the laziness will just worn off, right? You had to get up, right? Yes. So, but after that, what do? You naturally have to start working. All right? You will start moving around, doing things, do some cleaning. You will not be able to lie there forever, right? Because by our very nature, we're made to move. Human beings made to move. Okay. So do not be afraid that when you become unclutched, you become lazy or you will not do your daily work. Maybe you let's say you're terribly exhausted, you can maybe last for 1-2 days, a few days. But after that, you will get back and you start doing the work, right? So there's no worry that you will be lazy forever and miss everything. So next slide. So Swamiji says, live with morality out of understanding. Okay, so this is another thing. When you're unclutched, another expression is that, see, he said, let me tell you, a person who understands that by his very nature is unattached, unclutched, can never go beyond basic morality. Okay, which means it is only his life that you will see a strong, deep sense of morality. The morality is coming from the being, not by society definition of right and wrong. You understand? It's coming from the being. The person will naturally know what is the right thing to do. It is only in his life that you will see an extraordinary discipline. If the person is unclutched and the person is, living from that space, you see this person will express such extraordinary discipline. You don't even have to take the whip and whip the person. The person will do them by itself. The person will just naturally be inspired to do it. It will be a discipline which can never be shaken and a morality that can never be taken away. Okay? That means the society will not be able to frighten this fella. The society will not be able to control this fella. Okay? That means the discipline is so deeply rooted from the being, from that consciousness. No, it will be a morality that does not come out of fear nor greed. You will not be from the mind, because fear and greed are from the mind. Only in him you see the morality happens out of understanding, deep knowing, pure intelligence. Or in all other beings, it happens out of fear and greed in the society. You can see how people are wired. When they are doing things, many of the time they are, when they get clutched, it will be out of fear or greed. But when for a person who's established in the unclutched space, they will be doing things out of understanding, just like enlightened masters, incarnation. That's why when Swamiji said, whatever he operates, it will be out of high morality. But it's not defined by society, but it's based on that deep intelligence, based on consciousness. So morality based on fear or greed cannot take you beyond the body. You will be bind. You bind you to the body. Understand? Fear and greed is of the mind. So mind is naturally attached to the body, right? Because body and mind are two sides of the same coin. So only when you understand that by your very nature you are unattached, unclutched, a beautiful kind of morality start flowering in you, start blossoming in you. You start tasting and experiencing your being, your Atma, your consciousness, your soul. Understand? The morality coming from the soul is the eternal aspect of you. It will not be based on society. It is eternal. And whatever decision you take from that space, there is no karma. You will only be the right solution. Okay? Next slide. So before we go into the meditation, okay, the unclutching meditation, I want you to pen down these two things. Okay, take the paper and pen. What are the beliefs as virtue and vice that you're carrying? But virtue means like a moral, certain morality you are told by society or your parents. Like you must do like this. You must be a failure son. You must be a good mother. You must be doing this for your child. You must do this, do this. So certain virtue that you try to uphold because it's told by society. Because of the societal status or conditioning that you are taught. Like last week when we talked about the life stages, whether you're a student, you're a married householder, or you are vanaprastha, that means in the process of withdrawing yourself from society, or you are sannyasi, for instance, or you are brahmana, that means the one who teaches enlightenment science or give knowledge, or someone who sells a product, someone who protects the kshatriya, or someone who offers the time as a worker, sudra, right? So whatever in our modern society, whatever that comes in, there's certain bad beliefs that you attach as virtue or vice, right? Vice is like some actions, criminal actions, right? So all these create duality. You know what is duality? It means pull you to one side another. You're not in oneness. It makes you separate from the whole. Feel the separation from that source. Okay? And then the second part is your experience of pleasure and pain. So there's some pleasure you like to enjoy. What are the pleasures? Like food, nice massage, whatever pleasure that you I would say indulging in, okay? Or pain, whatever pain that you're trying to run away from, physical pain, emotional pain, or mental pain. Just write it down, okay? Understand all these are fabrication of the mind which create either the pain shock or the joy shock, okay? So now just list down at this moment in your life, What are the pain shaft and the joy shaft that you have created unknowingly because you forgot that you are unattached? You forgot that you're by your nature, you are unclutched. I give you a few minutes to write, then we will start the unclutching process. Hmm? Hmm?
Do we need to write down as virtual, like example?
Those virtual that you feel that you're clutched on, that you feel that you're being bound by it, that it's holding you in bondage. Do you understand? Like the duty of a wife, right? Like you feel that, oh, I have to see, if you know that you're pure consciousness, you're Atma, then suddenly you feel that somebody told you, yeah, as a duty of XYZ, you're supposed to do this. And then if you don't do this, they'll create guilt in you. How come you're like this? You didn't do this because I expect you to do this. Huh? And then inside the guilt, you feel, oh, I should have done this. You know, like that starts a whole pain shaft, right? The clutching. So there are many all these kind of things, the certain morality that is given by society, and you feel that you're trying to uphold certain morality instead of living from your pure essence, your consciousness. If you're living from your pure essence, morality is given. It will happen out of that, the energy you radiate. It will not be from society. It will not be out of fear or greed, right? Like for instance, you want to uphold your image as outer image as a good mother, and you try very hard to project that outer image, and you do very hard, but you feel that you're not able to do it as well because there's something you're feeling that you're being challenged. So and then because of that you feel guilty or you feel bad about yourself, right? So which means constantly you're trapped in that mind stuff of your expectation of you, and then from society, and you're not able to fulfill the expectation, and you're trapped. You're feeling frustrated. You're feeling angry. You can't even experience the peace in the gaps between two thoughts, because your mind is constantly pulling this way, that way, to think of either pain shock or joy shock. If you're entertained by this pain shock and joy shock all the time, how can you experience peace? How can you experience your true nature of unattached? No. You will be most of the time running behind what you call it, either the joy shock or you're trying to break the pain shock. And that starts that never ending, what you call it, looping. The looping that keep going on and on and on because it is mind stuff. The mind stuff is what is creating this predicament, this suffering. Okay, finish writing. Just contemplate for a little while, then we'll start the 21 minutes of unclutching. If you had finished writing, please get hold of your IBAN also. Any question before we begin the meditation? Everybody's clear about what has been spoken so far? Still writing? Yes?
Thinking.
Whatever comes out spontaneously, just write it down. See, especially this whole thing virtue, right? This virtue is defined by society. If you do this, you are a good person. If you don't do this, you are a bad person. Okay? So this like a right and wrong thing create a lot of stress, or I would say a lot of guilt in us. Okay? So identify all this that you feel clutch, that constantly produce this, the mind stuff, make you feel trapped by the mind stuff. See, when you recognize that, if it happens, oh, here it comes. You know how to unclutch. You just have to fall back to awareness. So, are you all ready? You got the IBAN? Shall we? Those people on the Zoom, please. So all of you, please sit comfortably in any meditative posture. If you are comfortable in sitting in Padmasana, go ahead. I'm going to start the timer for 21 minutes. Okay, 21 minutes, one energy cycle, which it is the energy cycle where the energy flows to the 7 chakras. Okay, the 7 energy center. So if you do unclutching, try to do at least 21 minutes or 42 minutes, 2 energy cycles. So depending on how long you can sit. All right, so all of you, if you have written all that you remember from the belief as virtues and vice and your experience of pain and pleasure, okay, which created the pain shock or the joy shock. So now sit with the back straight once again. Lock the major joints of the body so that keep the body in stillness. Every movement is a thought. Don't move. Like a statue, keep yourself frozen in this 21 minutes. Okay? So lock all the major joints in the body and hold the body in that posture for the next 21 minutes. With the eyes closed, let's enter into the inquiry of unattached, the very nature. Inquire about the very quality of your Atma, unattached. Now pray to Swamiji now, connect with the Guru. and request Him to bless all of us to experience that space of unattached peace and bliss. Take a few minutes to settle into that gap between two thoughts. Every thought that arises from the Atman, the being, just relax from that thought without chasing the thought or breaking the thought, just relax. The moment you relax, you fall into the silence of the gap till the next thought arises. Again, do the same, continuously doing the unclutching. relax. Come out of the meditative state, the unclutched state. Whenever you feel that you're ready, you can just remove the eyebrow. So you can share the slide. So how was it?
Initially, I could not see so many thoughts, but after a while, I see the thoughts. I see they have speeding up. I thought they should have slowed down.
So it's keep coming out, right?
Yes.
And then?
And just speed up and come.
Then do you keep unclutching?
I just witness them. Sometimes I go into the flow.
No. When you witness them, you witness them and you just relax from them. You just don't follow the thought. You don't try to destroy it, nor you try to, like, okay, let's say you say something, okay, then follow what's going on. Right? Then you go on, then you'll be gone already. You understand?
Yeah,
so what you do, the
while.
moment you see, you need to use your consciousness like a beam. You see, the thought is coming, the bubble is coming. Then the bubble will dissolve into the fish tank again, right? Then after a while, you will go into the silence. Then suddenly another bubble will start coming up. The moment you see the bubble coming up, just relax from it. See, right now you're not so sharp yet, but as you do more and more unclutching, you know when the thought is going to come. You know how to relax, and you
see
just
the thought. I think, hey, that makes sense. I got a flow.
See, the moment you start talking about that makes sense. This is already engaged in this whole. You're already following the thought. Just watch it and just relax from it. That means just let the bubble go and then dissolve and go away. You understand?
It's a good idea. Should we think about it more?
See, when it's coming from that space of silence, when you're shown on something, that is an inspiration. It's not a thought anymore.
So I should think about inspiration, right? Inspiration, IAD.
Inspiration is like the solution is being shown to you.
Yes.
Yeah. That's if it's an inspiration, then it's actually coming from that source of Atman, Paramashiva, and it's being shown to you how to do certain thing. It gives you the clue or the answer. So, anyone want to share from the Zoom? Huh? How was the session? How was the session? So, see, from this session, you can understand. If you catch this one fundamental truth, you can work out all kinds of psychological disorder.
Yes.
You can work out all the physical pain, all mental pain, all emotional pain. All this will just become irrelevant to you anymore. So you never suffer anymore from all the psychological disorder or mental issue, nor pain. Understand? If you know that all these are from the mind, not of you, then you know to get back to the you rather than entertaining your mind or being controlled by the mind or being deluded by the mind. When the mind is what is creating this and you start, thinking this is real and then you suffer, it's like you just feel trapped and all that, then you are living in the delusion. That's what Swamiji called as Maya. Okay? So, no question? Any question? Otherwise, we're going to conclude with the Puna mantra. You can share your experience in the chat group. Okay?
妈都有问题，想问一下呢，
Okay, please.
要是我们平常就在工作，在平常做事情，突然有负面的思想，怎么unclutch？也是知道有这个思想，然后放松吗？
对，放松就好了，不要去想它，不要去你就是要抓住你在那个负面那个想法出来的时候，你看到的时候你就 unclutch，不要去就是 don't allow it, don't follow that thought, nor create more thoughts from that. Like after you see something, let's say you're not happy with the boss. For instance, I just give a lame example. Okay, you're not happy what the boss made you do. Then after that, you think of angry, how to get back on him. Like then the next thought come, how to revenge, how to do something, right? So then you have already lost it, the peaceful space, because you're not happy, you're angry, you're feeling negative. Then you start to thinking what other things you can do to get back, or try to run away, or try to, like all this kind of thing. We're just creating a shark now. Understand? Okay. So, any other question? Otherwise, we'll conclude with the Puna mantra.
Can I just ask?
Okay.
So in this case, how about like when you're pursuing things like, life positive things? So that is a different, that's at a different angle, isn't it?
Can you give an example? I don't understand what you mean life positive thing.
Okay, that means like take for example, if let's say I find that, I like to go for nature walks because I find that it's very therapeutic for me. So is that also part of the pleasure shaft in that case?
See, liking and disliking is the mind stuff. It is still coming from the mind.
Okay.
See, like let's say you're deprived from walking in the park one day because of your physical, disability.
Mm-hmm.
You come a day that you can no longer go to the park, right?
Okay.
Let's say in old age, something happened to you and you can't go to the park anymore.
Right.
Does it mean that then you will suffer? Have you seen old people suffer tremendously because of the attachment to the park? And then if they can't eat certain food they enjoy, what happened? Last week I talked about one guy, remember, enjoy all the rich food and he cannot eat already. What happened? Tremendous anger came out, right? Same thing. Like and dislike is from the mind. Just unclutch from that. Okay?
Okay.
If I answer that question.
Yes.
You can enjoy the park, but without that attachment, without being clutched to that. When you feel like enjoying the park, just go and enjoy the park, that's all. But when you're attached, means if you're not going for a walk like this week, you want to go and then because of the rain and you become very angry with nature, or you become angry for whatever thing that's stopping you from going to the park, right? So that is an attachment. You form certain sharp already.
But when you say like, when you feel like going to the park, for example, but that kind of feel, that desire is also from the mind?
Yeah, of course. The mind will have desire, right? But the difference is you're not clutched to that. Not clutched to that. It means you're not stuck with that. You understand? See,
Because
when I say choiceless, just be there and enjoy and flow with it. Just flow with every moment. Then you become like a river. You're no longer stagnant. When you clutch, you become stagnant water. When stagnant water happens, what happens? You breathe all kinds of rubbish, right? So don't be a stagnant water. Flow like a river. When you flow like a river, naturally you will be blissful, peaceful. That's what Swamiji talk about, being choiceless. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So thank you all for joining. Let's finish off with the Puna mantra. Thanks for the question. If you have further question, you can ask in the group. So sit with the back straight, give a bow to Ashtavakra Swamiji, the enlightened masters who again and again reminded us of our true nature. This message is the same, it's just that we never listened in the past. That's why we are back in human body again. So now please listen so that you can be liberated in this body once and for all. Okay, be unclutched. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Saubham Bhagavan Shri Nityananda Paramashiva Partha Paramastu. Om Nityanandam. Thank you for joining. See you next week again. Nityanandam.